Hello guys, it's Clyde Steer here. It really feels weird today that I don't really have my earphones on, so I just really wanted to mention that because, whenever I record, I usually have my earphones on. But yes, I am back today, and I am here with my older sketchbook, which I have not used all of. This sketchbook was originally for my art class that was like all the way back in, you know, not elementary school, but college. So yeah. So today, um, I don't know. I'm just kind of here today. I wanted to talk about some things, because I don't know. I just been really, and especially with today, with like how things kind of happen. I mean, nothing really happened, but it's just like recently, especially these days, a lot of older feelings have been coming up in the bouts of, my past experiences with people. Now, I can't really share everything because, of course, I, I don't know. I just don't want to get caught up with anybody, really. But yeah. Um, so where do I start? So I guess this is like the easiest one, today. But really, the world has been really interesting these past few days as you know and I don't really want to be anyone to really talk about these topics because I just feel like these topics are just kind of heated. They're really complex and everybody feels a type of way, but politics, uh it's really confusing to see how the world is just dealing with that, and especially how, in a sense, these two people have so much power and so much ability to change our lives entirely, and to hope that things work out is like terrifying, uh recently I just been, or even not really recently, but today I went to walk, and I just noticed how mentally, I guess you could say, not necessarily drained, but mentally not. It's like how I feel so fixated on this. Normally I'm not fixated on politics. I'm usually the type to be like, oh, who cares about it? It's politics. You can't really control or anything. But it's just like, this is terrifying. Because you're just hoping that regardless of the candidate, you're hoping things work out. But then again, it's just like when you hear like what the news is saying and how people feel and whatnot, it's really terrifying, And then especially having two parents who, especially one parent who listens to it more, it's it's constantly in my ear. So like there's no way for me to really just run away or get away from it, because apparently one parent just likes to turn it all the way up and just listen to it loud and proud, and it gets overwhelming, you know and for me, I'm at this point where like I'm just feeling emotions, and I'm feeling things, and I'm acknowledging feelings I'd never really felt before. I don't really want to say it too much, but I'm just acknowledging. I don't want to say it too much because I really just don't want to get into anything with anybody, but it's just really nasty feelings that I just never really expected to really acknowledge before up to this point. And it's clearly, at this point, at this time, I just feel like it's best for me just to either turn it off or ultimately just to walk away from it entirely and just do my own research on the best candidate I feel is possible to properly, just direct and take care of the US. You know, of course, I have a lot more to say, but again, this is just not that type of channel. So, and this is actually looking really good. I marched in the band, and it was quite the experience. I had a lot of things. Like, when I was about, I believe I graduated high school when I was about 19. And at that time, I was really confused. Because of that, I made a really rash, this is a really bad calf, but I made a really rash and really sudden decision. I went to, college, and it's been kind of weird to think about it because, it happened so long ago, and, there are moments and times where I'm just like, oh, if I had this one chance, but then again, it's just gone. I don't have any more chances unless I decide to go to, master's degree, or if I decide to just go and take like another bachelor's degree and like a whole different topic in itself, which I could do. I mean, I have a degree in computer science, and I have a degree in computer science. Really, if I'm thinking about it, I could go for information technology and get a degree in there, which it doesn't sound too bad, but then I'm just gonna have to donate another 4 years. And I just think at this point it's just nonsense, because if I can finally get something in my field, then not in my field, but if I can finally get something in information technology, I feel like I'll be a-okay. But the main problem is that really for me and my circumstance, I have a lot of regrets. These regrets, stem from, or not, they kind of go from, I wish I did this better, or I wish I talked better, or I wish I talked to these group of people, to how regretful I feel to my lack of real interest in the degree process, or at least not the curriculum to actually exceed in it. I feel like, honestly, college is a great way to network and open up yourself to new experiences and to also talk to people. But I feel like at the end of the day, you just want to make sure you're doing everything properly so that, you don't end up just stuck somewhere after. And to be one of those who are like, oh, school didn't teach me anything. School wasn't really anything for me. Of course, it comes into question like the value of the degree that you got, but and as well as like how you did, because really, in my experience, no one does it for you but yourself. But yeah, so really for me at this time, I'm kind of like guilty for not really doing the most with my tenure. Within my tenure, I actually went to school in summer of 2017. I graduated in 2022, and so I marched in the band, and that became like a main focus of mine. And really, that was one of my greatest grievances, not necessarily for the band, but really the people. I was really just kind of miserable there. I mean, I did a lot because I practiced. I really wanted to become the best trumpet player, but then I kind of stalled. Growing up, I played the trumpet, but then, I eventually stopped because I thought I mastered it. I was a really interesting kid there, but I thought I mastered it, and so I just stopped playing it. But then I started seeing my friend getting really good on it. I was like, oh, I want to play. So then, I got back onto it, but my first teacher before I went to school, he was like, hey, I want you to learn the baritone. And I was just on that pack of, hey, if he can get good, then I can get good. So, I would constantly fight and I wouldn't listen. And of course, I want to say I have the fattest lips, but I have, big lips. So, you know, you can imagine going to college because I actually had the chance to switch instruments. Oh, and by the way, if you ever draw bodies, you want to make sure that like the body is kind of like that. You can kind of imagine the body as a pickle. As if you're doing something like this, don't exaggerate it because the chest is always going to be over the pelvis. They're always going to be quite similar in where they end up because they must follow each other. Your body's just, especially your torso, is a really big part, which just is connected to itself. But that's besides the point. So you can imagine just going to school and saying, I want to play trumpet, but then not really having much background to really just justify, that kid wanting to play trumpet. So at first, I came up there and I said I wanted to play trumpet. My original band director said no, and that was it. Until I kept showing up to the band room and in a Daisy fashion, I eventually convinced him. I convinced him to the point where like he told me that I'll let you play. And it was cool until it really wasn't. And I'll say this much. It was one time where, one of my newer band directors or one of the other band directors was having, I wouldn't say a screaming match, but he was just lecturing us, and then he called me out because, at the time I was practicing a lot. And, that was a really admirable trait to him, but and, he was saying all this in the heat of the moment. He was very angry because he was trying to get everybody, under control since we're all talking and whatnot. But then after it, I was just walking, and then he was talking to the other band directors, and it kind of hurts just talking about it. But he regretted saying it, and I just didn't know how to take it at the time. I didn't really know how to take it. And it just hurt. It stung because, it's like just getting someone who you looked up to and them just saying that, it stung, of course. But I'm sorry. It's just thinking about it, I kind of lost my track of mine. But past this, there's a lot of other things in which people would say things to me and it would affect me, and it's just at times it makes me really think about it because I just didn't really have too much of a good time, especially since I was kind of a loner. I wasn't loner by choice, but it was more so, I don't know, it's just my idea of gaining friends was kind of, it wasn't really the best. I expected people to come directly towards me than me, going towards people and starting a conversation. I was just one of those people. So I was just a loner. And, it meant just having to eat alone, not really having to people to talk to as much, never really having people to really just be around. And it just really made me feel alone. And it's just been something I've been really just thinking about because I don't know why. It's just something that would just come up sometimes just in thought, and I would just think about it. It's like I was just thinking about it one night, and it just started eating at me when I just kept thinking about it, because it's just this memory that just, it really just stings. It just sticks with me because I just spent so much time in the band, and you know, I spent so much time in there, and I gave so much of my time and energy, and I guess you could say that it just bothers me nowadays to think about it and to have experienced. And really at this point where, I'm currently struggling as like a graduate, where I'm having to try and get work. I guess you could say like I'm not necessarily regretful, because of course in the summertime I just could have got a an internship, because summertime, it's not like they're really calling my phone and be like, oh, bring your ass up here. At the same time, it's just, yeah, no, it's my fault, because I was way too fixated. And I spent so much time just never taking accountability, especially at that time in college. So I just really want to take some accountability, and just understandably say that I just didn't take enough responsibility in regards to internships and whatnot. And especially at that time during the summer, I could have just scoped out some internships. Of course, I got rejected, and I just gave up at that point, especially since I just didn't know the value. I kind of just saw them as jobs, and I kind of just saw college as like a progression in school, rather than it just being a place where, even not even that, because if you really think about it, school in itself really is just a place to network, as well as to join different groups, and to eventually put it on some random resume that you sent to a school. It's like constantly building yourself up and opening up yourself to new experiences, such as the Boy Scouts, or basketball team, football, really anything, or to some type of business or coding club, which builds you up and eventually sets you up for a better time in the future. It's this whole big, not a network, but this whole big place for you, depending on where you live, because schools can be different. You cannot just have some teachers or certain programs, but you have so many of these things which will eventually benefit you, or your college tenure, if you ever decide to go. But yeah, I just for me, I just never really thought about it. I was just always a kid who was kind of taught to go to school, do good, and that's all. I never really learned that I just had to go to school thinking about my future and everything. I wasn't really taught that, but it's okay. If I ever have children, if I don't, maybe I'll just tell someone else's kid, or I don't know. Maybe I'll just focus on myself primarily. But I know this was kind of like messy. This was a messy explanation. I just don't really want to go too much into it, because of course, it's just not really the best to constantly or to dig that deep. This is really private, and I don't want to mess people over. But excuse me. I don't know how long this video is. I kind of record from top to bottom, so my phone's just on top of me, so I really don't know how long. But if you appreciate this video, I don't know, it's pretty cool, I guess. I mean, if you appreciate this video, that makes me, I don't know, I guess that makes your life better. You know, you're watching a video. I'm not really getting much from it, but if you're listening, then I hope you got something out of it. I'm not really educating you or teaching you anything. I guess next video I decide to make or something, maybe I can just talk about how these things, or maybe how these things make me feel and how you overcome them. I mean, I haven't really overcome them yet, but it's something I'm constantly filling out and adjusting to. But yeah, you have a good day. I don't know if you enjoyed these drawings. I mean, I made this first sketch. I should practice much more angles and different things. I guess you could consider this as finished, but I don't know. Anyway, you have a nice day. Bye.